All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Village Project. And now that I'm doing a couple of different video series, I got to make sure that I don't ever get them mixed up. But today I'm here with my co-host, Nicole Reed, and
Hello.
also our guest speaker, Aimee Alvarez.
Hi, everyone.
All right.
Hi.
So, as usual, before we get into that, we're going to talk about the three pillars of the Village Project, and Nicole is going to help me get through that. And so, the three pillars of the Village Project. The first is the solution-oriented mindset. And one of the things that you'll find out as you get to know Aimee is that mindset is very important. And so, with the Village Project, having a solution-oriented mindset is key. And what we mean by that is seeing the change, being the change, and building the future. And there are different components to the solution oriented mindset, reframing problems so, uh, as challenges, okay? Reframing problems as challenges, taking responsibility, asking the right question, maintaining a positive attitude, and a commitment to continuous learning. Do you want to chime in on that, Nicole?
Yes. So what we see is an awesome opportunity just to create that space where we can ask the right questions. We want to make sure that our attitude is always positive. A lot of times we get that cyclical negative behavior, and so we always want to bring it back to the positive aspect of it and try and find those solutions that we have with the problems that we're facing.
Yes. And because it's so easy to kind of go down that wormhole of negativity. And so we
Perfect.
want to make sure we avoid that at all costs. The next pillar is the power of community. And I firmly believe that we have everything we need in the AV, although it's not beyond us to reach out of the community as we did in our last Village Project video series. We talked to two people in Oklahoma, but we have everything and we have everything here in the Antelope Valley. And the legs of that pillar are sharing habits, sharing strategies, and then rolling up our sleeves and going to work. What do you think, Nicole?
That's so important because what I understand and what somebody else brings to the table, I get to learn so much from other people and what other people bring. And so just sharing those habits, sometimes people get in that mindset of, oh, I don't want to share it because I might not say the right thing. Well, that's the power of community is that we get to share those habits and strategies and then work together to really figure out, hey, how can we become better within our community, whether it is strictly just the AV or we've expanded out to bring in more to help us out within the AV.
Yeah. You know, a common phrase in dealing with sports teams is we're only as strong as the weakest link. And I
Mhm.
believe that holds true for community as well. And so why not talk to all the people that have kind of went through the processes and mastered some of the habits and strategies and then share those with those who are still struggling in those areas. The last and really important is effective mentoring. And by that, we mean leading parents, lifting youth, and lighting the way. And the three legs of that are real talk, no judgment for not knowing, and walking it out together. What do you think, Nicole?
Yes. So this goes back to the power of community, real talk, talking about our strategies and our habits, and then know that this is a place where we're not going to judge you. A lot of us have been where a lot of these parents are, or we're continuing to walk through that, and we're going through our own struggles. As we talked about on the last Village Project podcast, we kind of talked about how things are going to come and go, and things are going to revisit, and so we want to walk that out together and say, hey, you're not alone.
And so today I want to go ahead and introduce our guest, none other than Aimee Alvarez. And I'll just kind of tell how we met and what I know about her, and then I'll let her tell us. Um, I met Aimee when I started to help a friend of mine build a church. He's opened a new church out here, Kingdom Conduit in Palmdale. And I believe that I met Aimee there on the first week. And and so that's where that relationship kind of began. But since then, and since getting to know her, I've just been thoroughly impressed with what God has given her, with her being a certified personal trainer, a certified nutritionist. She's also a mother, a woman of faith, and a wellness coach. She is the founder of a spirit-led online fitness and wellness platform. She's a contributor on the Village Project Facebook page, which I'm very grateful. She does the Fit for the Kingdom posts, which just continue to blow me away every time I read them. She's the author of the book Grounded in Grace, Rooted in Faith. She's an advocate for mind, body, and spirit transformation. And she has a heart for single moms and parents under pressure and those needing encouragement. And so now, Aimee, I want you to kind of tell us a little bit about who you are.
Hi everyone, my name is Amy, as he said, and thank you for your amazing introduction. It makes me sound cool. So I'm a certified personal trainer and nutritionist. This wasn't what I originally started out to do, as I had said before. I was in the medical field for actually 10 years, and through my own opportunities as we reframe our problems, right? So what were struggles at one point and things that I was able to overcome have now become my purpose and my passion in life to now help others. So through my love of falling in love with helping and fixing myself and then seeing how we can free ourselves from these diseases and these things that go on within us, I said, oh, how could I keep this to myself? And I have a heart for women who are single moms or just women in general and mothers, because sometimes you can be a mom but it feels like you're single because you're doing everything by yourself, or just families in general, and even the men that struggle and have to do it by yourself, because these day and age a lot of times there isn't that complete family. But
Yeah.
even with the complete family, just my heart goes out to families and community in general, and that's why I was so excited when I was able to be asked to post on the
Uh-huh.
Village Project, because that's everything that I stand for.
Yeah.
I'm also a part of, me and my friend had a vision about 4 years ago called the Paraclete Project. And if you know what the word paraclete means, it's parakletos, it's helper, it's so we lift each other up, and that's what the woman is supposed to do. And that's who she is to me. And so I'm very excited to start that. But it's just very big with women and with community and with lifting each other up. And for people who just don't know where to start, or they feel lost, or they feel confused, and we can come and be that for them and give them that safe space to just be that. So it's just like what the Village Project is. And I just love this mission and what you're doing. And it's everything that I stand for. And it's my business is me walking out. So I am my business. Everything that I do, I spill over into it, and it's everything that's being poured into me just overflows into that, which makes it so easy. And I feel like I never work a day in my life. And sometimes I feel like I should be like stressed out or doing something more, but I'm doing it. So it's really cool.
That's well said. I've
Yeah,
never heard it quite put that way when people talk about their businesses. It's just really me walking out my life. So,
amen.
and to me, that sounds like you don't really ever have to sweat. And I don't mean that literally, because I'm sure you do a lot of that with,
Yeah, it's
okay.
what.
But so what we're going to do based on our previous conversation is we have prompts going, detailed from what you gave us, and we're just going to bring those up, and then we'll ask you to just touch on them briefly. And since we have a lot, okay. So we're going to go ahead and start. We're going to start with your upbringing and family background. And the first thing I have here was you said that you were raised in a home, and there were some generational struggles that you had to deal with. But you did describe your childhood as normal, and you said that even though y- you guys didn't have everything as children, you were never really made aware of that. You want to kind of just elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, it's funny talking about it, because sometimes we don't stop and reflect and look back. But growing up, I never worried about what I was wearing. I never thought about what other people thought. I ate ramen out of packets. That was like my favorite thing to do, the dry ramen in the packets. And I wore Walmart shoes. And to me, like I was just living the life. I watched Saturday morning cartoons and I would eat my cereal and I was just living. And I never knew that we were struggling, that my parents were always struggling to make it by because to me I was just living and I wasn't worried about all these things and it's funny to think back on because now I would never eat ramen out of a packet because my gut would immediately get inflamed and I would just have all these problems that come from it. So it's just funny looking back at how free and careless life was in the midst of financial struggle and all these things going on. And now being an adult, just going back and realizing like now I have all these other problems, even though I don't have that problem. Even though my parents are free of that problem, now I'm burdened with all the things that they tried to protect me from
Yeah.
as an adult. So it's kind of
You-
funny to that.
Since you brought up Saturday morning cartoons,
Yeah.
and that was something that was huge with me, I just need to ask, what are some of your favorites?
One of my favorites is Teen Titans Go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I grew up in the day where one of my favorite cartoons was the Jackson 5 cartoon.
Okay.
So that goes
Different
way, way
times.
back. Yes, yes. Go ahead, Nicole. Did
All right. So you mentioned that you were influenced by your sister, but not so much in her positive aspects, but more along the lines of her negative perspective. And this happened pretty early on. Can you elaborate for us?
Yeah, so I was the middle child. And my sister was forced to take me everywhere with her. And so it was super annoying to her, but I didn't even care that I was bothering her because I wanted to be with her with everything I did. But even when we would get in trouble, we would still be in our separate rooms and we would be passing notes or we would make the telephone with the cup and the string. So ultimately, she was my best friend and I looked up to her in every single way. So to me, she was like my superhero. So her perspective, even though I was sheltered from all these things, her perspective became my perspective without even realizing it. And because she was an older child, and she also has a different father than I do, but my father raised her as her own. But still being an older child and realizing all these things that are happening that I'm being sheltered from, her perspective was different than mine. And so us being so close and me feeding off of everything that is coming from her overflow is now affecting my vision. And I remember one time, as an adult going through my healing processes, I forgot what I read, but it said something about to go back and look at family photos, right? And so I took out our albums and I was looking and I just started bawling because I was like, I painted this ugly, terrible, horrible picture of our upbringing. And I realized that we do have problems, but we still had a good upbringing. We still had good parents. We still had parents who loved us. They may not have done everything right, but even as a parent now, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just
Mhm.
trying to figure out as I go and that's all that they're trying to do too. And so I realized how much that skewed my perspective and my relationship with my parents and even my relationship with men coming out of that because it overflows into everything. So every relationship that I had was kind of based off of the overflowing of that and not even realizing.
Very interesting. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. Goodness.
Yeah.
So
And
I do see that even though you loved learning and you tended to hang out more with the nerds, even though you had cool friends,
Yeah.
you at that time you weren't really health conscious. And then you how early on were you diagnosed with hyperthyroidism?
It was actually
Oh,
hypothyroid, so
hypo. Okay.
underactive thyroid, which is
Okay.
what really kicked it off. Because I think if it was hyper, I don't know if I would have ever wanted to do anything about it. Because I'd be like, I'm be skinny all the time, don't have to worry about it.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So I was actually 17 years old, and they told me that I had hypothyroid disease due to a tumor pressing against my pituitary gland. And every year I had to get MRIs. I had to go to the doctor. Every month I would go to get labs, and they were always fixing my medication. And it was just very inconvenient because you don't realize it, especially so young, like hormones and what it does to your body and the way that it makes you feel. And through that, that and just life in general, like I had dealt with depression and anxiety and just thoughts that weighed me down in these spirals. And like I would get so cold it would hurt in my bones, and my hair started falling out. And skin is dry. It just affects so many things in so many ways, and you don't even realize. But they told me I was going to be fat, and it sounds so like this is so like you shouldn't think like that. But I was just like, no, I'm not gonna be fat. Like all the other things, it wasn't even like I was gonna deal with it. I was gonna write it out. But they're like, you're gonna be fat. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna be fat. And so I started doing everything that I could to fight against this diagnosis. And I was like, I'm gonna find a way. And so one thing that my parents and anyone who knows me knows greatly is that I'm very stubborn. So if you tell me something and I'm like, no, I'm gonna do it, I will find a way. And I don't care how I'm gonna find a way, but I'm not gonna stop until I find a way. And through that led me to my passion for working out, for eating healthy, for all these things. But I had to go through like the grit and the mud and the dirt and the ugly and the diet culture and the ugly ways of thinking and looking at myself bad and going through eating struggles and over exercising. I had to go through all those things to learn to come out the other side and learn what I know now, and which is why I really want to help other women because I see them struggling and I don't want to see anyone have to go through that because I know how low and how ugly and how hard that stage is. And so if I could just come and show them the end result, looking back at everything and teach them what I know and save them from all that, then everything is worth it to me.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Before I let Nicole ask you about your parenting, I wanted to talk about something that you and I both had in common. And because of your diagnosis, you were rejected by the armed forces,
Yeah.
right? And,
Yeah.
and I'll tell about mine, and then you could maybe even talk about yours. But I have real but bad flat feet. But right after high school, I wanted to get into the armed forces because I didn't really know what else I wanted to do in life. And
Mm.
so I was relentless. I went to all of them. I tested for, and because I was not already a smart kid, passing those tests was no big deal. But I couldn't get past the physical, and I always knew I was in trouble as soon as I saw the doctor looking at my feet and writing down his notes. And I was rejected, and I always thought, man, they missed out on one heck of a soldier.
Yeah.
So, but tell us about that experience for you.
And my comeback to that was their rejection is God's redirection because I kind of did it in the same way. It was just out of high school, and I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't thought about what I want to do with my life.
Mhm.
And I have like a army. I found out I have Viking blood, and it's probably a very minuscule amount, but I just take that and I own it because I always felt like I looked a little bit different too, like my face structure and things like that. So when I compare myself to other women of my color, I'm like, I don't look exactly like them. And I always look down on myself, especially with my broad shoulders. And so when I found out I had Viking blood, I was like, oh, I knew I was a warrior. And so the army it spoke to that side of me, but now I'm still in an army. I'm just fighting a different battle.
All right.
Yeah.
I
Go
love
ahead, Nicole.
I love that. Okay, so we're going to jump into how you parent and some of the experiences that you have gone through. But we're going to start way back to getting married at 21 and having your daughter at 22. So if you want to talk a little bit like maybe if you want to talk about your marriage, you can. If you want to talk about having your daughter and some of those thoughts that were going on as you were like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a first time mom. I'm young. What's going on? Go for it. Let us know.
And while
Okay.
you're talking, Amy, I'm going to be sharing photos as you talk.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, she said it correctly. I was terrified. I was so terrified. I was 21 and I got married to my husband. He had proposed to me and I had been through a lot of bad relationships, so I just wanted this safe man because I wanted to be a mom, I wanted to have a family, and that's all I wanted in life. If you ask me what I wanted to be, I wanted to be a mom, I wanted to have a family. So this man seemed very safe to me. He loved me so much. And so I said, yeah, I'll marry you. And we got married within 3 months of getting married. I was already pregnant with my daughter. And then by 22, I was having her. And I remember they put her in my arms and then they went to leave the room, like for us to stay for the night. And I was like, where are you going? You can't leave me alone with this thing. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And even as she came out of me in that picture there, it reminds me when she came out, I was angry because it was so painful. And I was so mad at all the pain. They took away my medication, so I had to feel the whole thing. And my body just wasn't handling it well. My body's really small. It doesn't handle like any type of drugs or anything like that very well at all. It just kind of over exaggerates it. So I couldn't breathe during the thing, and she came out and I was so mad at her and I didn't want to see her and I was angry, and they put her in my arms and I just started bawling because it was just instant. Like, this was my child and I loved her so much. I forgot about that moment, so I'm like crying right now. I just love my daughter so much. But they put her in my arms and I was like, you can't leave me here with this thing. I don't know what to do with it. I had never held a child before. I didn't know what I was doing. Um, I was even upset when I found out I was pregnant. I don't think I talked to my husband for about 3 months. I was so upset. I forgot about that too. Um, but the second I had her, everything changed. And I just, they say that with men. Like, once you have the child, like everything changes and you just kind of know what to do. But I kind of felt like that. Like, once I had her and I had her in my arms, it was like everything just came natural. And I still don't know everything, but everything just kind of naturally just took its course. And I became this protector, and I became, her cover. I became like what she depends on. And it was just so natural to have this connection with her. And so when things did transpire with my ex-husband, because we ended up getting divorced, she was about, I would say, a year and a half already, and I had come to find out I did everything the right way. And so there was a lot of things that I didn't see, and there was, drugs and alcohol and things like that. And my daughter was being presented with situations that would put her in danger. And so I ended up having to run out and leave in the middle of the night with my daughter. And I just said, whatever I have to do, I'm going to protect this little girl. And the day I left, I was so strong the whole time, and we packed everything up, packed everything in the car, and it wasn't until I turned the corner I just started bawling my eyes out because I didn't believe in divorce. This was scary. I didn't know what I was gonna do. I had no thought in my head. Only thought was that I have to protect this girl. And so we left that night and we never looked back. And I think I cried that entire day. And my life since then has felt backwards because of that. But it's just me trying to figure out now, like, okay, like it might be backwards, but it's all working out the way that it needs to. But because I felt that burden to be everything, it kind of did play a down part in me being her mom, because me feeling like I had to be everything didn't allow me to play the motherly role that I needed, because I was also trying to be her father at the same time. And you can't play both roles. And it wasn't until I was going to school and I was working and I was trying to make our way. And I would leave in the morning before she would wake up, and I would go to school, and then I would go work, and I would come at home at night and she would already be asleep. And she cried and said that she felt like she lost both her parents. And it just broke my heart. And I said, wow, something really has to change here. And so that's when I really started just getting on my knees and crying out, like, okay, I'm not a father, and I have to trust that that role will be provided by somebody else. And I have to, like, can you soften my heart and teach me how to be her mother now? Because that's what she
Mhm.
needs from me. And that's when I really started opening up my heart up and trying to allow the hardness that was in it to soften so that I can be what she needed and be there for her, and also to slow down in life and realize the things that really matter, and to just allow everything to happen as they should, instead of trying to, wake up and grind all the time and force everything to happen. And there's so much peace and freedom in that, because now I don't have to worry about anything. I just be, and everything I do comes from that being. But it takes work to get to that point.
You
That's
know,
so
mhm,
powerful.
Yeah.
mhm.
Only because, like, as I'm sitting here listening to you, and I know that the notes that we have are amazing to me, because you could very easily have just come in and just sheltered her and not allowed for you to be vulnerable and allowed for her to experience life's ups and downs. You talk about how you didn't baby her and you involved her in some of the, you know, the accountability factors, and you emphasize truth telling and decision making. And so I just look at you and I just think, wow, what a pillar of hope that you are bringing to not only your daughter but to you and to everybody else that gets to hear your story. That's so amazing. So thank you so much for being vulnerable enough to share those with us, because I know that that probably wasn't easy to take a trip back in time.
It's emotional, yes. But cleansing.
Is this your daughter in this photo here?
That's her. So in the pictures I wanted to share from how I started and kind of what Nicole touched on, what I didn't really mention in my story was ever since we were young. So I forgot what question it was that you asked me, but I didn't change my life to fit her. She came into my life and we made everything work together. So it wasn't like this time is her nap time, this is this. Everything has to fit around that. It was like, no, this is my life and we're gonna make this work together. And so that's her doing workouts with me. And ever since she was young, we just did everything together. I didn't make excuses. It was, like we're gonna go to the park and I'm gonna make a workout of it, or we're gonna play together, or let's do our workout together. Everything is together. And even still to this day, which is why I wanted to fast forward to the pictures now, is that we're still doing that. And now she's in gymnastics and she's teaching me things, and we're still learning and growing together and we're challenging each other. But we have that closeness and that bond and that relationship where we can challenge each other. We can fall and we can make mistakes and we can laugh about it and we can grow because we've been allowing that open space the entire time. We didn't pretend to be anything that we were not.
That's awesome. Is
Yeah.
she in this picture as
Yeah.
well?
Yeah, she's on my back.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Impressive. Thank you for sharing. Now we're going to move into the educational and career part of your journey. And you said you told me that you worked in the medical field for about 10 years. Doing you were a dialysis technician, was it?
Yes, dialysis tech. I also did massage therapy and I worked for a chiropractor
Okay. All right. And when did you become certified
for dialysis or for personal training.
for personal training and nutrition?
So I would say about 2 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago,
Uh,
my time's a little off. When you get older, it just flies. You think one day it's like a year. But I became a health and life coach.
uh-huh.
And then I realized that um, people really like certifications. So
Uh-huh.
even though I knew everything that I knew, I was like, okay, I need to go ahead and get certified now. So it was last year that I did my personal training and nutrition certification. But it's funny because I took the courses and I already knew even more than they were teaching, right? And I have to humble myself too because, there's always going to be stuff and there's always room to learn, but that's basic core foundation that they teach you in the classes. And so,
Yeah.
but now that I have a certification, people are like, okay, we can come to you now. And so certifications, they really do matter because I was like, does it even really matter if I have all the information, all the knowledge? And what's funny too is I always thought school was funny in a sense where you can test out in all A's, but that doesn't mean you have real life experience, right? And so
Yeah.
sometimes I test really hard, and this is why I learned this. And some teachers had to tell me like, it's okay if you don't get an A on everything, because I was always very hard on myself. I wanted straight A's in everything. But they're like, as long as you can take this and you can apply it to real life, because just because you get an A doesn't mean that you can take it out there and apply it and walk with it. So that's what I have to remember and learn now, even doing psychology is like, okay, as long as I can apply it to real life, make it applicable, then I know it's all worth it.
I did want to ask you about something that I have in my notes. It says that you encounter countercultural narratives about health and fitness.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me what that is.
Can you explain the question?
Uh, oh, okay. Countercultural narratives that you had come across when I guess in nutrition and fitness.
and it could be in relation to your education and your career journey in the sense that you had to learn to like lean more into God for a deeper understanding.
Mm. Yeah.
And when that counterculture narrative came about, how did you go and handle that?
Okay. Sorry. Whew.
Okay.
I am
So,
blonde naturally, so
Quite all right.
okay. Yeah, so that was the really cool thing because everything that I learned, there's so much education, there's so much things that I learned, and there were so much things that I was applying. And I love science as well. And so you get to become the experiment. I would learn something and then I would apply it on myself, and then that's how I would gain knowledge and I would learn how to tweak. And then I learned how to read other people through that same process because when you come to know yourself and understand yourself, you can understand and know what other people are too because you're personally going through it, right?
Yes.
And so I knew all these things, but it wasn't until I came to God. I had been raised in a Christian household and we went to church our whole life. And I said it with my mouth, but I had never believed it with my heart. I was so hard and closed off that I had not really accepted Jesus into my heart. And so it's only been about 4 years now, actually, where my life truly transformed and changed, and which is why I think it's so easy now because I have this new revelation and this new wisdom in my life because there's knowledge and then there's wisdom. And so once I did that, I was able to humble myself and get down in certain areas. And even scientifically, right? So if you go through a trauma, it'll get stuck in your body, right? And so we carry pain in our body and it gets stuck. And so, with women, they teach like it gets stuck in your hips. So they teach hip movements and things like that to start releasing it out. And so when when you meet God, it's kind of like the same narrative. So he's showing you, he's highlighting those things inside of you, and then he's bringing them to the surface. And while it might feel ugly and messy and scary, and this is the part that people don't talk about when you come to God, they say like, "Oh, it's going to be so lovely and beautiful and you're just going to be free." But all these things start coming up, but they come up so that they can come out. And so he starts revealing these things, and it wasn't until I got free of all of those things with the help of him and bringing that in that I was able to be physically free. And so now in my practice, I don't preach anything physical without also spiritual as well because it's mind, body, spirit. It's all three combined in one. And you can't be free in one area if you're not free in the other, because I can go to the gym, I can eat everything right, but I can still internally be beating myself, speaking death, doing all these things and living with all that inside of me. And inflammation is the number one reason for disease and illnesses and things like that. And it all comes from when we're harboring all these things. And so when you do that, you're opening up the door to shed light on all that and to bring it all out. And that's where you get completely free. And as I had told Michael when we were talking, I've been free of hypothyroid disease. The tumor shrunk. There's no explanation why. It should never have shrunk. I don't have to take medication anymore. I got free of my depression. I got free of my anxiety. I got free of cyclical patterns. There's still things that I have to work through every single day. But I have the tools now, and which is why I wrote the book that wrote so that other people can now have those tools. And sometimes I open up and I'm like, wow, I know what to do. Like, I can't believe it was already inside of me. But I've healed myself of ulcers and precancerous cells and things like that. And so again, when the doctor give me a diagnosis, my stubbornness comes out and I say, no, I'm going to beat that. And I sit down and I get to work, and I'm working in the gym and I'm working in the kitchen, but I'm also sitting down and I'm working with God. I'm working on my soul and I'm working on those hard things they're hard to face. I'm looking at myself.
Thank you. And I think that like all of that brings us to our next point is you mentioned about salvation and your spiritual growth, and it seems like you have just been on this amazing journey and figuring out who you are, which allows you to be able to help and talk to other people, which is amazing. So if you want to talk a little bit about how you came to faith, you did mention it a moment ago, after being invited to church.
Yeah, so my friend invited me to her church, and I went, and I was like, okay, I want to find something closer because it was like an hour drive away. And so I ended up finding something closer out here, and I started going, and then God was just I didn't know at this time, but like I would just have these feelings, right? And so now I realize it was the spirit like connecting. So I was just like, I don't know why, but I feel like I need to sit with you and I need to learn from you. And it was this woman, and it's always a strong, powerful woman that he leads me to. And so I was like, I just feel like I need to work with you. And she's like, okay. And she had felt it too already, but she was waiting for me to come to her. And so I sat with her, and for years she sat with me and she mentored me and she worked with me. And then I ended up leaving that church and I found Dr. Nicole's church, and I started going to Kingdom Conduit where I met Michael. And I met another lady through there, and I met her through Businesswoman of God, which is another community that I'm a part of. And I speak there at times, and sometimes I'll open, I'll close, I'll do online. Oh, there we go. Sorry, it confused me when it did that. And I'll do the social media for it and everything like that. But she was speaking there, and then God told me the same thing. And I told her, I said, for some reason, I felt like I need to sit under you and learn. And then fast forward to a year later, I'm sitting at a Bible study with her, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I'm in the middle of an answered prayer because God had told me this before, and I told you that, and here I am sitting under you. And so God keeps connecting me to these powerful women who are just pouring into me and who I'm able to grow and to learn from. And so all those things that I was missing growing up or in my childhood or in my home or from my own parents, God is now filling me through these people that he's bringing into my life. And even with men that I've met in healing situations, it got so bad to where I didn't trust men so much where I couldn't even look them in the eyes when I was talking to them. And so God has brought men into my life that show that, hey, we're safe. Hey, we protect, we cover, we care, we're here, and we're one body together in Christ doing this together. And you don't have to be scared and you don't have to be fearful. And yeah, and so when I met that lady, I was sitting with her for, gosh, it was a while. It was like 2 years I sat with her, maybe a year. My time's really messed up. But we were sitting in a coffee shop, and she just told me, "You never let Jesus into your heart." And that's where I realized I had said it with my mouth, but I never believed it in my heart. And I just started bawling, and that leads me back to the men. And I said, yeah, well, yeah, how could I trust this man? And it finally came out. And I think sometimes until you get truthful and honest, because you never want other people to know that you don't really trust Jesus because he's a man, and how could you trust him? And how could you say something like that? He's the savior and he died for our sins. Like, how could you admit something like that? And so I finally felt safe with her because she sat with me for so long and she never judged me and she never forced me into anything. She waited until I was ready to come out with things, and she's just so patient, so loving. And so I just said, yeah, and I finally admitted that. And finally when I was able to admit that, I was able to open up that space, and I said the prayer and I let him in, and I cried the whole day. I just sobbed my eyes out, but it was like a good cry. And where I was so strong before, now I cry a lot, but now I don't think of myself as weak when I cry. I think like I'm just cleansing all of these things, and they're beautiful moments. And so a year after that, I ended up getting baptized in my old church. And then here we are a year later, and now my business is taking off, and God has been just giving me visions, and he's bringing people and community and my church, and just everything that he's doing is just really lining up, and speaking and writing my book, and nothing is through effort. It's just all flowing through it ever since I connected.
Thank you so much. Like you've given so many different strategies from a mentee's perspective as well as a mentor's. And so it was just fascinating for me to just travel down that road with you. If you could give one piece of advice as a mentee,
Okay.
somebody who's being mentored, what would you tell us?
One piece of advice.
Okay, maybe more than one, but if you could, like one thing that was most powerful for you as somebody that was just sitting underneath this woman or these women, what would you tell us?
I would say I think it's twofold, but they kind of go together. But first of all, the woman that I sat under, God revealed them to me to sit under. So he gave me a safe place And I knew that they were going to be someone that I could trust. So I
Mhm.
think first that's important. And then I think moving onward from there to allow yourself to open up, because I think that's where I held myself back is I was scared to reach out, so it prolonged my time because you're scared to reach out, you're scared to be vulnerable, you're scared to do all these things, but that's why God placed them there in your life so that you could have the safe place to do it. So don't be scared to open it up and be real and be raw and lay everything out on the table and cry if you have to, or reach out to them if you need to talk. Like, they're waiting for you to call them. They're not feeling burdened by you. And I wish I could go back and tell myself that, because I always felt like a burden. And now I'll just pick up the phone without calling and they'll be like, "Look, you just did that." And I don't even realize that I've grown so much, and they'll commend me for that. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I did. I didn't even think about it. Like, I'm just calling now." But it took me so long because I was so scared for somebody to see me, because I felt like if somebody saw me, it would be so ugly and they would not accept it. But the truth is that when you bring it to the light, you realize that's a lie of the enemy, because we're all feeling that same way and we've all been through things, and maybe they've even gone through worse things, or but they're not going to judge you and they're not going to look down on you, and they're there to help you. But unless you're open and honest and real with them, they can't truly help you, and you can't help yourself unless you get to that point. And it was kind of the same thing with my moment with Jesus. Until I got real and open and raw and vulnerable with even Jesus himself, then he was like, "Okay, now I can come. Now we can work on this together, you know?"
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. That was so powerful. I'm inspired. I don't know myself. What do you think?
Yeah, she kind of has that way about her. I think that's probably why the Village Project resonates with you and why you are such an integral part is because we want to be that. We want to be that safe space for the community.
Yeah.
And so thank you for sharing that. And there's so many things about you that I feel like the community desperately needs, and even men can gain to learn from the way you have lived. And so thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Let's go into your business and community work. And I see here that you created an online wellness app
Yes.
focused on fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle change. Maybe that's something might need to get into since I'm always looking at your post and thinking, hey, I need to do this.
Mhm.
And you also teach an in-person class at Ride 360. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah. So, when I originally started my business, I had in mind that I wanted to spend more time with my daughter. Not realizing that when you have your own business and you're trying to do one-on-one in person, that is just so much time. And so you're just like, "Oh my gosh, I started this to have more time, and it's like sucking up all my time." And so
Mhm.
I sat with God and I'm like, what am I gonna do? Is this really the right thing for me? And the only thing that I couldn't scratch is like, this is my purpose and this is what I'm walking in. And so I was presented with being able to make an online platform. I don't know if he showed me or how it worked, but I was like, okay, I see other people doing this. I'm gonna try to figure this out. And I've taught myself everything that I've known. I've done YouTube University, and I've sat there, put in the work, and I created an app. So now I can do my one-on-one training through the app if you wish to do one-on-one, because one-on-one it's more personalized. So everything is very generalized. But if you do one-on-one, that's where we sit down together. We go through those habits and those beliefs, and we restructure those, and we reset neural pathways, and we really get into that work of, why are you having a hard time following this? Why is it so hard for you to do this? And getting down to the root of the things instead of just giving you, here, do this, right? But I also have those options as well, because some people just want that, right? So there's also my all access, where people could just look at every workout that I've created, and any day they're just like, okay, I want to do this today. And they'll go on and there'll be all the upper body workouts they can choose. And it has it for at home, just with dumbbell, just with the bands, at the gym, whatever it is you want. Or there's specific programs. So, for my girls, we got like our glute gains and things like that. I'm also certified in glute growth. So that's a certification of mine. And so I have very specific programs for each thing that you want. Even right now for calisthenics and Pilates and things like that are really in. So lengthening and toning and things like that, very specific programs. And it has me right there in your pocket. And so what I probably should charge more for the extra that I give, but I have so much heart for my clients. And so my line is open to them 100% of the time. So when they're reaching out and they need help or they don't know how to do a workout, it doesn't matter if you're on my all access or if you're on my one-on-one. Like I'm sending you videos, I'm talking you through it, I'm giving you advice, I'm getting down there with you. And I feel like because I do that, I see the fruit of them, right? And to me, that's more of a payment than any monetary, right? Because everything is always handled. I never have to worry about my finances. So I don't even really think about like, okay, well, I shouldn't answer them because they're not under this or, and so just giving all of myself all the time. So when I say that I'm in your pocket, ready to access, like I really truly am. And it has a food tracker. You could track your water, you could track your activity. All that is in there. Um, so that's been a really cool feature to add, and I launched that this year. So that was really exciting. And then I started working at Ride 360, which is on Lancaster Boulevard, the end of last year. One of the ladies that I met at Business Women of God, she was leaving the state. And so she said, "Oh, you would be great here." And she got me the job. And I just feel so blessed. And even there, like I go there and I collect a paycheck and I forget. And she'll be like, "I have 3 paychecks waiting for you." And I'm like, "Oh, I forget I get paid." Like, because I just love what I do. And so I do cycling classes. I do strength and tone classes, which is like weightlifting hit style. We do row, boxing. I love boxing. So it's just really, really, really fun. And I'm glad that I didn't settle at the other gyms because I could have easily got a job where at the gym that I work at. But I always be patient and wait out for those things. Never be desperate or eager just because, like, oh, this is an opportunity and it's there. Just wait until it feels right and it sits with you and never settle for less because what you think is going to be good for you, God will always have more and He'll always have greater. And that's how I feel with my opportunities.
All right. That's encouraging to know. Before I hand it over to Nicole, I'm going to ask you one more question about your business and career see, it's co-creator of the Paraclete project. I know you talked a little bit about it. Can you kind of go into a little bit more depth?
Yeah, so right now, so about 4 years ago, God had placed it in our hearts, and it was because we were struggling women. We had this pain and we had this burden, and we felt like we were carrying everything. And sometimes when you feel that, God also gives you, sometimes you are the answer, right?
Mhm,
And so there's a problem, but the answer is within you, right? And so that's kind
mhm,
of what was happening. And so as we're talking through and we're walking through it, it's like we wish we had that. We wish we had this. And we started getting like visions and we would put it down. And even now I sent her a picture. I was like, "Oh, I just drew out this vision board. Like God downloaded this into me Monday and this is kind of like a blueprint of it, right?" She was like,
mhm.
"Shut up." I literally drew that same thing. And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And that's how it's been the whole time. And so
Mhm.
it's like, even if we don't talk or this or that, it's like the visions and everything is there. And so what we feel like we didn't have, what we feel like we needed, God is giving us, He's building up in us. And I think that's why it took so long because He had to work through a lot of things in us to be able to get us to the point where we can now, start building that for other people. And
Mhm.
so, it's just really cool to see. And it's starting, so it's not even anything big, but it's just beautiful. It's just so beautiful. And it's just taking that step in faith. And it's like, okay, we're just gonna step out and show up because even to think about doing it is so big. So to
Mhm.
think about anything greater than just taking the next step, we can't even think of that because then
Right.
then we might get scared, we might back down, we might do all these things, we might come up with excuses, but we're just like, no, we have to take the step, and the step is showing up. And so
Yeah.
Tuesday nights, we have a workout group for women in the park, and they can bring their kids so the kids can play together, and they don't have to worry about that because that's a huge thing. And we're just out and we're in nature and we're doing it together and we're struggling together and we're laughing together. And praying together and just lifting each other up. And it's just nice. And our kids are getting to have that community with each other, and we don't have to worry about any of those burdens. And so it's just a light time to come together. And a lot of women are scared because they don't know how to work out. They don't know where to
Yeah.
start. They don't know where to do all these things. They're scared to go in a gym. They don't know how to do these moves. And so it's just giving a safe place to even learn foundational stuff.
Yeah.
And so right now I'm just like, okay, let's teach compound movements. Let's teach foundation. Let's teach from the ground up. Let's make it very simple and just start there. And then on Fridays, we're doing community days where it's for the whole family. So not just women, but men, single parent men homes or single parent mom homes or families that are still together. Like it's just a place for you to come, and we
Mhm.
can be outdoors in nature, not inside these houses all the time with the lights, and
Mhm.
getting into like walking on the ground and learning how to use those things around us, and learning like what is this tree good for? What is this plant good for? And teaching and doing nature art and just really getting connected to everything that God created, and being outside of your home and being together. And it's so beautiful. Just being together in community, as you know, is just so beautiful, and it's so necessary. And those are the days where I just feel like, man, like this is what life is about.
Yeah.
That's where I feel like that. I feel every other day when I'm stuck in the grind or I'm going through it, sometimes I'm like, what is this all about? But when I'm there, I'm like, this is what it's about. It's about
Yes.
community, it's about doing it together, and it's about helping each other. You have this service and I have this service, and how can we help each other and how can we build together, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I could totally relate to that. The scariness of having a big vision. I mean,
Mhm.
think about it. Try having a vision of transforming an entire valley,
Yeah.
you know, but you kind of just let go and you just let God.
Mhm.
And there are times, and I totally can relate to what you said about the joy that you feel, even though it feels like a roller coaster ride sometimes. When there's certain things that you do that God is allowing you to do and He shows you to do that makes you just feel so good that He gave you that idea, because it's like, and I know that I would have never thought of any of this stuff on my own.
Mhm.
He he gets all the glory, So yeah, thank you for sharing. And yeah,
Yeah.
such a good flow when you talk about your life.
And
Um,
that's such a mind shift too. I loved hearing you talk about just that mind shift of getting people to come together in the community and be okay to experience things that they've never experienced before. So thank you for being that person in our community. So let's jump into advice for disenfranchised parents. Along the lines of mind shift, we have a perspective shift that you talked about, and it talks about moving from that victimhood or that victimization into empowerment. So how would you describe that?
Um, like that. So a lot of times, and we we don't realize it, but I even myself, and this is why you should never judge others too, because sometimes, there's your parents and there's generational curses, and you look at them and you're like, well, why can't you just get it right, right? You're
mhm,
supposed to be the parent. Why can't you get it right? And you don't even realize that as you're doing that, as you judge, you take on that judgment. And so now it's like I'm judging you for not getting over it and not even realize that I'm taking on that same character trait. And now I'm the victim. Now I'm the victim in my life, and I'm doing the very thing that I hate. And so once I realized that and I came out of myself, I was like, oh my gosh, right? And so we truly do have the power to overcome that and to change. And it's just realizing like perspective shift is exactly what it is. And so you're taking that like life happened to me, and you're changing it to no, life happens for me. And so, in hindsight, which we can never see until we go back, but this is where faith and trust truly come in. So, in hindsight, looking back, I realize, and I could take back so many years of my life, but everything that I went through, I would not be here today if it wasn't for that. I couldn't speak to the women the way I speak to them. I couldn't relate to them on the level I relate to them. They wouldn't be drawn to me that the way that they are. I would not be this pillar of light in the way that I am. And I'm sure that something else would have come along, but if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be here, be able to help these women and have these conversations. So none of that happened to me, it all happened for me. And it wasn't until I was able to have that perspective shift and come out of that victim mindset that I was able to realize, like, this is my life. I have control. And how I talk to myself and how I speak over myself and the decisions and the choices and the words that I say are creating the life that I have. And I have the power to change that. And it kind of goes to like when I pray about something, and I'm just going to keep it in the family because I was already talking about that. But if I'm praying about my mom, right, and I'm like, God, can you help her with this? And it's funny because when God answers me, he answers me with, okay, you're going to work on this. So it's never what he's going to do in her, but he's showing me what I can work on and change in me. And it's kind of the same thing because when I change, everything around me changes. And it doesn't even necessarily mean that they change or the situation changes, but everything changes because I change and my perspective is changing and how I see everything is changing. And so, one saying that I really love, and I'm gonna butcher it, but it's basically deciding, right? To decide, if you take the word apart, de and side, it means to cut. And so when you have choices, you get to choose every day what that choice is gonna be. So, but when you decide, you are deciding to cut yourself away from anything that is not that. So tomorrow, it doesn't matter. Like there's no choice tomorrow because today I've decided. So tomorrow, if that thing comes at me, it's not even a choice because I've already decided to cut it away. And so everything that I do from now on has to be in alignment with what I said. And so even I myself have 5 things that God spoke to me. And even if it looks good, even if it looks like God, if it's not in those 5 things, I can't do it because it's going to be a distraction because we can so easily get so busy, but just because we're busy doesn't mean that we're being productive in the things that God has for us. So
Yeah.
in order to not get distracted, and I think when we get distracted, we lose our confidence because we lose our trust in us because we're not holding boundaries. And so we now we're insecure, and so now we're pleasing all these people around us and we're leaving ourselves in the dust. So when you decide, you're able to gain your confidence and your trust in yourself even. And that's, with God, yes, it's important too, but also with yourself, you need to learn how to trust yourself and trust the things that you say and what you're doing in your life. And also trust that, the people that are around you, if they're for you, they're going to still be around you,
Yeah.
right? And so just trusting that whole process.
Wow.
So,
Very
so
powerful. Go ahead, Nicole. You go first.
yeah, I'm wanting her to give me more. So I'm like, okay, so you go from there, and then if you have empathy now, so now let's throw in the empathy through experience. So explain to me, how some of your adversity makes you. You talked earlier about being right trusted and having those credentials, basically, or that certification. People are like, okay, I trust you now.
Yeah.
But share a little bit more with disenfranchised parents. Like, how does the empathy relate through your experience?
I feel like it relates, and I was talking about that this morning, and people are always like, we need to be more like Jesus, right? People always say that, but I don't think they truly understand what it means. And Jesus says love covers a multitude of sins, and if you look at how Jesus was, he and versus like how Christians are like, this is wrong and you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that, and they're always trying to judge and correct and criticize. But if you look at what Jesus did, he sat with these people. He sat with the woman at the well, and he didn't condemn her. He didn't tell her, you're doing these things wrong. He sat with her and he saw to the heart of her, and because he saw her heart, she was able to be transformed, and that's where the love covers. And so because I have gone through these things, I'm able to sit down and have a compassion and an empathy at a deeper level because I know what you're going through. I've been through that. And sometimes I'll go through something again and I'm like, I thought I beat that. And then someone will come to me and I'm like, you're the reason why I just went through that again. So I could remember what it was like to go through that so that when I sit down with you, I'm not talking at like I'm talking down at you or I'm talking from a level higher than you. It's like, hey, I just walked through that this weekend and let's do that together. And them even knowing that you're still walking through things and that just because you've got past it doesn't mean that you still have to fight it every day. And there's something that's what really builds the trust. And feel like really helps bring the freedom in my clients is because they don't get that other places is what I feel like, because when they express to me how grateful they are, they're just like, oh my gosh, like you're so real, and you're going through it, and you've walked through it, and you're sharing real life examples, and they love the openness and the vulnerability and being able to realize like, hey, there is nothing wrong with me. And if she's here, like, if they see me a certain way and they're like, she's here and she's doing it and she still struggles, like there's hope for me and I can do it too, right?
Yes.
And so it's like, yeah, let's do it together, because it's just because I do it doesn't mean that it's easy. It doesn't mean that like I don't cry myself to sleep. It doesn't mean that I'm not like screaming inside sometimes. It doesn't mean that I don't want to eat the bag of cookies. Like it doesn't mean any of that. It's not any easier. It's just because I have decided, and so there is no choice anymore.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll tell you a little bit of transformation that took place in me just looking at your videos. Normally in the early morning when my alarm goes off at 3:30,
Wow.
um, my mind will immediately start making excuses for maybe you should wait till tomorrow to go to the gym.
Hmm.
But since I saw that one post you had a couple of days ago about how movement is purpose and movement is prophecy. It's like I don't give that thought a chance to grow now. It
Amen.
still comes. I still will have that. As soon as I get up at 3:30, that first thought is, you could probably do this tomorrow. But now it's like, no, we're not going there. So I take control of that thought immediately because
Yes.
I know this is important. Movement is important. Exercising is important, not just because I'm a big fan of what I put in my mind, but you've shown me that I need to be just as vigilant about what I'm doing with my body.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's definitely a transformation aspect of your ministry, which I constantly am telling you that I see. And so I thank you for that. You said something. You said we are the temple, and the way we live should honor what God has placed within us. Do you want to elaborate a little bit?
Yes, this is what my ministry is, because my business, I do believe it is my ministry. And what you said too, you're taking every thought captive. And that's what we need to do, is take our thoughts captive. Our feelings and our emotions, they're real and they can be acknowledged, but they're never to drive the car. It's like we don't hand our kid the keys and let them drive the car. So it's we acknowledge it, we acknowledge that it's there and we see what it's trying to say to us, but we're ultimately in control. Um, but so when God gave me the vision for my business, he gave it to me. It's it's three
Mhm.
circles, and then the three circles come together, and it's body, mind, spirit. So, and then it's God, Jesus, and Holy Spirit, and it's um, church, world, home. And so you can't, they all interlace together. And so it kind of goes back with what I was saying. You can't be free in one area if you're not free in all the others. And he even gave me the revelation, like in the church, the church will preach on taking care of the temple or taking care of your body. And then you go to a potluck and then they're providing foods that are just like not, I'm just like, what? I can't even eat anything here. And, and another thing too, is my body has extreme sensitivities. And I always thought like, I wish I just had it easy, right? I wish that it was, and people like look down on me and they're like, oh, you're too strict, you're too this, you're too that, but they don't realize how sick I get when I eat it. But I'm glad that I have it because it keeps me in a state of humility to continue walking this journey and to not forget those things that I've been through. But that was
Yeah.
a side note. And so he gave me that vision there. And so in Exodus, it talks about the temple and it talks about building it. And it says, in the Holy of Holies, there was only to be pure gold, right? And there was a veil, and only one man could go in this room one day a year. And he had to go through a process to even be able to go there. And that's where the presence of God would meet him. And in Mark 16, it talks about how when Jesus died for our sins, God tore that veil with his hands and he ripped that apart. And now we are the temple, and the Holy of Holies lives inside of us. And so now, that same sacred place that only had pure gold, that he would meet them there, that's living and dwelling inside of us. So we are that temple. And if only pure gold could be in that place, why are we placing anything that is not? And so that's why I
Yeah,
say our movement and what we eat and what we do is it's really prophecy, and it's everything should flow from that place. And if you think about what the food does to us when we eat it, food and alcohol, and the way that it bogs the mind down and bogs the brains down and puts these diseases on us, why, whether they're physical or mental, it's keeping us from the capacity that God has for us. And so we're numbing and we're shutting out God. And so we say that he lives inside of us, but it's like we're putting him in this prison and we're not allowing him to have that space. And so we should only be putting that in there because that's where he dwells, and we should be honoring and respecting and living as such.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nicole, did you want to say anything before I close this out?
No,
I mean, I could
no.
listen to her forever. Yeah.
No, I'm just inspired. So go ahead and close us out, Mr. Hodges.
Okay. Well, this is what I will say, and I thought you probably heard me say this before. The community desperately needs what you have, desperately. But here's the thing. And I want to know if you agree with this. Everyone has
Amen.
thing, that thing that the community desperately needs, right?
I was thinking that right as you said it. I was like, because it's not me, it's God within inside of me.
So I'm glad to be working alongside you to
Yeah.
help the community realize
Yeah.
that the community has what they desperately need. The
We are
community,
the answer to our problems.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So, Nicole, the community desperately needs what you have.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. So let's just keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
This was such a pleasure. I'm just you know, I'm going to go ahead and follow the script because I do need to close this out. But I just got to say that this has just been such a great conversation. So, everyone listening, that is a wrap for the episode of the Village Project. We hope today's conversation gave you the tools, the insight, and the encouragement to grow as a parent and as a person. Whether you're facing challenges or simply seeking better, remember, you're not alone. Change is possible, and the village is here to walk with you. From our hearts to yours, thank you for being part of the journey. Until next time, keep showing up, keep growing, and keep becoming. So, this is Michael Hodges, that's Nicole Reed, and our special guest, Aimee Alvarez, and we're signing off from the Village Project. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.